Hello, Froggy here, and today I'll be showing you how to get to the end of Salvation's Edge without doing any encounters. To do this, you're going to need to be on Prismatic Hunter with Storm's Edge. We're going to be taking advantage of high jump and triple jump occasionally. I find high jump pairs pretty well with grapple. You don't really need any of the aspects. You also don't need Navigator, but it will make your life easier. But we can't use it at the very beginning. I'd also recommend having some gun along that you can use to die to regen ammo. Ricochet rounds works well. You'll also want an Eager Edge sword, and you'll definitely need Salvation's grip, especially if you want to do this solo. Stompies helps too. We'll be using both the nice jumps and the benefits to sliding. Anyways, let's slide on over to start the raid. Still can't quite believe how far you have to go to do that. Speaking of which, we had to go pretty far to figure this one out. It took nearly 2.5 weeks of quite a few people working very hard to figure out this route. Which I guess is fitting for how long World's First took. While we could Storm's Edge through the window from my last Salvation's Edge video, there's a much better way. The Cube 17 tested the fallback point pretty much immediately and found that it will put you right past that pesky door. You can take a couple steps forwards, turn around, and use the classic 3-2 pattern to block off the default spawn. Then just die and respawn before the crystals leave, and you should spawn here. Of course, that takes up a lot of ammo, so it's a good idea to regenerate some. You want to have a reserves chest off when you're alive and put it back on when you're dead, and your ammo will slowly go back up. Thanks to some stealthy editing, I'm almost at full here, so I'm going to go ahead and swap over to my sword, and as well toss on Navigator. And let's get that ammo back up, since that swap robbed us of a good deal of ammo. While I am going to be using Navigator on this route, I'm going to try to only use one grapple point at a time, so you should be able to get away using just regular grapple with some modifications. Anyways, at least getting to second encounter goes about in the normal way. Gonna make our way up here. I'm pretty sure you would be able to collect maybe all of the lore pieces this way. I don't actually know where all of them are, but we basically go to every part of the raid. Naturally, the staircase to go all the way up is not present, but you can almost parkour your way there. Back when the raid launched, Elite did some work and figured out how to get up the elevator that takes you towards third. Maybe with triple jump I would have been able to clear that one in a sword swing or two, but let's go ahead and pretend I made that jump. If you're doing Navigator flying, I would recommend firing your shot before using your jump so it has time to go forwards. It's definitely a little trickier than on Titan, because Titan can just hover for a good bit of time while you do all your swaps. And, oh yeah, we can make that jump from here. So this will take us over to the next elevator, but I don't think that elevator is currently running, so we're gonna have to make our own way up. So we're going to want to go right up there. An easy grapple flight, but I'm gonna see if I can do it in just a single shot for those of you still waiting on your Navigator. Jumping in the air to prevent the cooldown from triggering. And landing to make that not matter. That little gap there is kind of handy, because otherwise there's a little bit of a ceiling in the way. So you can actually take the outside of this lift, and if you manage to jump into it just right, instead of stopping you at those kind of collars, it'll bounce you out, which is pretty convenient for going upwards. You can use a sword swing to get back against it. And ideally you would keep this up for most of the way upwards. It can be a little bit tricky. It's very easy to lose ground and fall a bit. There's a gap we have to go through here, so I would recommend using a grapple to make sure you get up in the right spot. And now we're stuck on one of the collars. I just need a moment to unknot myself. So our challenge here is to get above this collar. I'm using a single short grapple to get my jump back. And I can swing out, jump, and swing back in. I would recommend waiting for Eager Edge to go away, because you don't really want to be going too far outwards. If you don't have Navigator, you can land on the previous rung to get your grapple back. Or you could do any number of a different sort of variation of this same thing. You could sword swing out and then grapple up, for instance. But eventually you'll get towards the top. Ideally you'd get to the very top, which doesn't quite have the same sort of collar thing going on. But I got a little bit impatient here. If you go too far away from the elevator, you're likely to get a turn back. You want to be landing on this platform. You see, if I look up there, that's where I should have done that transition from. And now we're in a place where you really want to have triple jump instead. And might as well regenerate some ammo while we still have a fair bit. We're going to be working our way around the side of this whole structure. So you'll be jumping out, and then jumping back, probably with a little bit of sword assistance. Didn't quite make that one. Luckily, you'll set plenty of spawn points along the way, so no big deal if you miss one of these. Can't seem to quite jump out, but sword'll probably do it, so see if we can round this corner. Yeah, I didn't even have to use my grapple. So we still got to make it across the entirety of this stretch, and at the very end we can go in through the backside of the door, and I guess they go upwards. So you'll probably want to take one cubby at a time here. Yeah, you can see how they are slowly leading up, but luckily we have a nice set of external stairs. Just a little bit more. So the second of the little things sticking out is about where the doorway is. I've never not died to the load there, but shouldn't make a difference if you do or don't. And now we have another traversal section. Like you may have seen in my previous Salvation's Edge video, you can go straight through those sorts of dividers. But to speed things up, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of grapple flying here. But first, might as well kill these guys. Some of the very few ads that you see during this entire raid doing it this way. But we can drop some heavy ammo so I don't have to do another round of regen for a bit. Sound here is kind of weird, but anyways, let's get that flight going. You can go through the normal way too, of course, if you don't have Navigator. If you ever have Gordian not active, you can die to save yourself the 30 seconds. And oh, that's right, we turn left here, so whoops. Yeah, I still haven't done this part all too many times. Here's where Navigator flying really saves a bit of time. The traversal would otherwise be about how it normally would be, except that there might be a wall or two of those orange flying blocks that you would need to eager edge through. Probably this way. Good old blasty walls. Coming up on the first chest here, and both of them are in fact obtainable, so if you've collected any raid loot, you'll be able to get some free drops. Otherwise, just some spoils. And with that brief detour out of the way, it's time for another wall. Keep in mind that this one's a bit staggered, so you want to go through the thin side. And it helps if you land on ground. Let's do that again. Swords are pretty nice. And I am not a titan. Keep on thinking my melee's gonna pull me forwards. But that's what we've got the super for. Well, now we've got another little normal transition going on. I do enjoy how all the rooms kind of change their color schemes. A very visually interesting raid. I'm particularly fond of this orange room. Although the top of it is a bit of a nightmare as far as going out of map is concerned. We were stuck here for a fair bit of time before Avi managed to get a Rez Breach working. Elite then managed to get a more consistent one, and I got a setup for it that works pretty nice. You'll need to use Salvation script for it. And, as is generally the case, I would recommend regenerating your ammo before trying this. I would also recommend changing your jump over to triple jump if you're not already on that, because we're going to need to do some precision climbing. The Rez Breach spot is right up there. You may notice that I'm jumping like a madman. That is intentional because we need to not set a spawn point too close to it or we won't be able to get where we're going. Of course, if I don't manage to get these jumps, we won't get there anyways. Yeah, you're gonna have to be a little bit quicker than that. So you want to fire a Salvation script shot right about the bottom, which should put a crystal about where you need it to be. Then go into this corner, fire a shot straight up, and you should be able to crouch jump up onto the platform. As a Titan, we were trying to stasis melee onto it, and that was very inconsistent. I would take the crystals around just to make sure none of them mess with your spawn point, because it's kind of a pain to set up and would be a shame to not spawn here. But if you do, you'll pretty much go through the floor every time. We're getting close to the first time we're going to need to use our super, which is why I didn't switch over to something like stasis and used Salvation's grip instead. So if we drop down on the left side here, there's an area that you can go underneath the floor, and this general area is a place that we were also stuck for a long time, until Adelaide made a very interesting discovery. If you walk backwards here, you can shoot through the ceiling, and it turns out if you use Storm's Edge on preferably 30 FPS, and you can fire through the ceiling, you can go through the ceiling. It's not super consistent for me, but usually I can get it in 3 throws. Although not this time. I would recommend having a set of 100 intellect armor so that you can only have to wait 6.5-ish minutes in between attempts. You want to keep backing against the wall as you throw, because if you're not walking backwards as the super goes off, you won't be shooting through the ceiling, and you will not be going to third. Ah, there we go. Yeah, I actually managed to get it on my first super for every other attempt, except the one I'm recording, of course. Go ahead and swap back onto my sword, because we won't be needing Salvation's grasp anymore. And what's this? A horse in pyramid architecture that has but a single butt. Ridiculous. Well, we know from the previous video that we're about to have a nice old flag, but also, this door opens. Not quite sure why this one opens and none of the others do, but I'll take it. Our next route breakthrough came from Awesome Fox, who found a way out of this first room in the back right corner here. Which, conveniently, we don't need Navigator to get through. Go ahead and show you what to do if you get trapped down here. You can still get out with a single grapple. I'm using Navigator just because then I don't have to wait for my grapple to recharge in case I need it later. I don't want to drop down and go to the right. This area is littered with death barriers, so, you know, try not to die a lot. But if you stay a bit to the right here, you can climb up and they shouldn't give you much trouble. There is a death barrier above us as well, but the Cube 17 found that you could blink above it. And then I managed to find a way to get into room 3. So you want to come over here, and while you're here, the death barrier is right above us, so keep that in mind. Before I do this, though, on the off chance that I managed to get this on the first try, I'm going to show you how to retry this quickly. So you can come back over here, and you want to jump up on the upper section of this kind of slanted thing. Once again, for death barrier reasons. And you can drop back into the map. And if we go to the previous load and return, it'll reset the flag as long as no one else is holding this zone open. And given that this is soloable, that shouldn't be a problem. It's very nice that we're able to do this, because otherwise each failed attempt would cost nearly 6.5 minutes. And here's where I'd put the flag if I needed it. So let's give this one a shot. Over top, and oh no. Anyways, glad I had that flag. So what you actually want to do is you want to make your first throw up to the right, and the second one far left. So, to the right, and then way over here, and you should drop down and be safe. If you go too far to the right, you'll land in turn back and die anyways, and that's no fun. As with most of this raid, if you travel too far off to the side, you'll get turnbacks. Which is unfortunate, because that's where we're going. The Snazzy Rock managed to find a hole in this back corner, and Barbucks managed to show that it is possible to survive the turnbacks back there. Luckily for me, I ran into NA Painter in an LFG run, and he was able to guide us on the way to Verity. So, this part is a bit tricky. I would recommend being a little bit to the left on this kind of wooden stump. And then you're going to want to swing your eager edge sword, land about where the hole is, slide through, use a grapple, and then eager edge in the air to make it to the corner. This is by far the hardest part of the route. It took me many tries to pull off. Most of my failures were trying to slide through the hole. If you do it too far to the left, or if you're standing, you just die. But luckily, if you set a spawn point in that corner, you have as many tries as you want for this section. We're just going to walk off here, and I am trying to remember exactly what NA Painter told me. You see, it was a day ago, and I have the memory of a goldfish, but yeah, here we go. Just gotta drop down onto this platform and step forwards. If it doesn't kill you there. You just kind of walk up into the load zone. And with that, we've reached Verity. Well, at least the zone called Verity. The encounter itself is just a short walk down this hallway. And once we get there, there's only one last obstacle to get past. Unfortunately, we will need our super again for it, so in the meantime, an intermission. Adelaide here was nice enough to join so that I could swap over to Titan. So, I met N.A. Painter while doing an LFG Triumph run, and we spent a good long time at Verity before people gave up for the night, and after that, Painter showed me how to get out of map in Verity so that I could see the truth for myself. I had been pretty sure there were 4 copies of the room, but it is nice to see it. So if you make your way up to this kind of route here, you can look up and see a hole. It's not the only hole, there's plenty of ways to get out. This is just an easy one to spot. Although once you get up into it, spotting anything is not easy at all. It's rather dark. And there goes my grapple. I'm going to use ghost lighting to get a clearer view of our surroundings. And you can kind of make out a hole in this direction. And we're out. Unfortunately, the floor below us has a death barrier, so we can't quite touch it. Or that'll happen. Let's see if we can get a better view. So you can see one of the rooms out to the left. And there should be 2 more. I got a little glimpse of some chess pieces. There is ground that you can stand on over in this direction. And these annoying kind of black sheets that block your view. But they're intangible, so does not stop us too much. Oh, there you can see another one. Trying to avoid going too high because it's easy to accidentally hit the repository load, and if we die to that, we'd have to do the whole thing over again to get back. Yeah, you can see there's another one right here, and a little bit of ground that we can stand on. And I assume set a spawn on. Weird spawning animation there. Alright, yeah, there are plenty of death barriers. Maybe if I turn to the right instead of the left, I won't hit it. Yeah, it is rough out there. Wonder if there's going to be funnels to get to these rooms. Probably not, but you never know. Yeah, death barriers all over. Almost barrier surfed there. Oh, and that is repository. Definitely want to go back into Verity before dying, because otherwise you're going to have a bad time. Well, now that my super's charged, it's time to carry on. So, you'll notice that the symbol on the back is in its default configuration. And the way up is blocked by this thing. Every once in a while it kind of parts and gives an opening. I tried getting Storm's Edge through that, and I did make it through that once, or at least the projectile did, but I did not blink in after it. But luckily there's another way. When getting in the bottom fails, we can go in the top. Also, that's a easy way to go up there with only one grapple shot. So, at some point, the Snazzy Rock managed to kinda crouch walk out of the top of this elevator shaft. And I figured if you can walk out, certainly you can blink in. The positioning is a bit tight, but sure enough you can. It was kind of a close call there, though. This tube is kind of annoying, though, because while you are kind of on a surface, you are not standing, so you don't get your jump back. But you are considered touching the ground for the purposes of Gordian knot. So that's a bit unfortunate. But if we just kind of wait out the timer, we can get our grapple flying going. If you don't have Navigator, you could try stasis climbing up this tube, or if you're feeling spicy, perhaps grapple onto a rocket. Oh, time's up. Let's do this. You don't need to make it all the way up, because eventually the kind of elevator will catch you. And there we go. Nothing left to do but walk up to the boss. And get the second bonus chest, I guess. Well, there's nothing different about this particular climb, but while it's going on, let's just go over some of the people that helped get us to this point. We have the Cube 17, Elite, Eater of Crayons, Idafi, the Awesome Fox, N.A. Painter, the Snazzy Rock, Barbucks, Adelaide, and me, of course. It was truly a collaborative process. We even had to come up with some new tech to make it all the way out here. Nice to finally have a raid that we can go start to end and end to start again. I don't know, maybe we'll be able to figure out something now with the whole Root of Nightmares thing. But in the meantime, here's the second bonus chest. I tend to forget where it is, so this is going to help me remember it. We got it earlier when testing the full version of the route, so no loot for me. But if you've not opened it yet, it will have loot for you. There is one small OOB at the end here, if you can call it that. The doorway at the very end does not open. I like these little columns here with the disciples that we've fought. Yeah, we don't have the niceties of the third encounter here. We were wondering if we were going to be able to do like a no darkness witness encounter, but sadly he just kind of stands there menacingly. But we did make it. And now you can too. Well, might as well enjoy our time here before we head out. So there's a little fun thing you can do here. Have you ever wondered what the top of the Boots' head looks like? We're about to find out. Unfortunately, we can't go all the way up into the smoke because there is a map ceiling, and unfortunately, everything is turnbacks. But we can just barely make it in and witness the witnesses' very bald head. Makes the whole trip worth it, don't you think? Anyways, happy exploring.